Yes, we have started recording this video. In this video, we are going to talk about our documentary, like documentary, not about document, about the Cold War in form of documentary. I think I have to resize the video size. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so we are going to talk about what we are going to talk about Cold War in this documentary part of series. It's 4:47 a.m. in the morning. I'm just recording this video with full excitement. I'm going to sit here for next 1 hour. Next 1 hour. See how it goes on. Because it's in a quite bit long period of time, as I already said in previous documentary videos. One, sitting 1 hour in front of a screen and speaking out your thought is not a joke, baby. It's not a joke. You just have to keep motivating. Just have to keep motivating daily yourself. Nobody's going to help out you in any of your process. It's your goal. You have to achieve it your own. That's why I want to say it. It's an what? It's an what? It's an what? It's an what? So now it's a documentary video which we are going to talk about Cold War. How does it start? What happened in the Cold War? Why it started? There are several questions in it. For those we are going to answer through the slide. Till now I'm just copy and pasting content of slide from other different websites like ChatGPT or something else. But after some time, when I got good in writing skill, then I will write them on my own. Then real progress will begin, I think. Then real progress will begin, I think, when I will write this article or this slide my own, and also when I will write this slide or article my own, and also speak it out on my own pace for this article. And then I got to know about how well I can speak, how well I can speak on a topic, or do experiment with that. So it's 4 a.m. 4:49 a.m. in the morning. Already 3 minutes has completed in this video. Let's continue. Should I continue with the Cold War video or take some time to introduce? Take some time to introduce why we are doing this type of things. I think I already said it to you that I just want to improve my speaking English. Speaking not English, speaking in skill. Speaking skill can you improve when you expose yourself to different topic. How can you present that topic in front of it? And I think I'm just here to explain through the slides. That is one of the way. It's more effective than reading out an article from different sources. But it would be good or better. It would be good or quite achieving if I write down content of this slides my own, then speak out that content in front of you. Through this, two things are happening simultaneously. First is that what is first that first is that I'm improving my writing skill along with the speaking English skill. I can edit out if I read out my own article. If I read out my own article through video, and I got to know, oh, that's how the sentence is used, how it can be used furthermore more to improve it. That's what I want to say. So to whole September month we are going to speak throw slides only. But after uh, but from 1st October of 2023 we are going to speak through on my content. Like I will just like then World War One. We have I have created documentary video on World War One. So there have been introduction part which have described out what is World War One. Then spread out several questions about him, like why it started, what are the major causes, what impact did it have on the world after it finished, what are the technology advancement or something like this question. To the answer of those questions, I would write on my own without helping out of anyone else, without taking help out of anybody else. Like I'm to in order to understand what is the answer, I'm going to read the answer, but I'm going to read the answer, but didn't have any plan. We didn't have any plan to. I'm going to read that answer. I'm going to not read an answer. I'm going to what in order to have knowledge of about the topic. I'm going to read and out the answer. Read it out. Uh, and after accumulating quite good amount of knowledge about the topic, I will what. I'm not going to. And then after that, I'm going to write on my own throughout that throughout that article, throughout that what topic. That's quite difficult. Mm, mm, mm. Shall we continue with the topic? So first topic is title. I'm going through the title. You can understand what topic is. It's Cold War. We are going to understand how Cold War affect the what did he affect? What this incident affect? How Cold War started? What are the main reason of Cold War? All thing we are going to study in this documentary. The Cold War is a period of intense geopolitical tension between the rivalry between the United States and its ally, collectively known as the Western Bloc, the Soviet Union and its ally, collectively known as the Eastern Bloc from the end of World War II in 1945 until the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. Despite being the term a war, the Cold War primarily involved political, economic, ideological competition rather than directly military conflict between two superpower. Okay, it's good. It's good to be an it's good to be an open bond that help in progress of humanity without even involve of the military. Then what's the then mm, it's good to be like it's said that rather than direct military conflict of two superpower, there is no involvement of the superpower military conflict, but just in order to fulfill their ego issue. Soviet Union and American allies almost fight for what not fight in the field, but actually on the geopolitical level for almost around 40 41 by 51 years, 46 46 years on a geopolitical level. This fight led to have a big growth in terms of space war also, that led to Apollo 19, Apollo 69. and into the moon, and we saw a first moon landing by Neil Armstrong by America. And after some time, it said that Russia also landed out its spacecraft on moon. That's a quite big achievement. After the after the after the they have ended out in 1960s. After that, only China has able to do it in 2013, I think, and India became fourth country to do so in after landing Chandrayaan 3 on moon. After landing Chandrayaan 3 on moon, so it's become quite big news in term of space exploration for India while landing Chandrayaan 3 on moon. The Cold War was a period of intense geopolitical tension, rivalry between the United States and its allies, collectively known as the Western Bloc and Soviet Union and its ally, collectively known as the Eastern Bloc from the end of the World War II in 1945 until the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. Despite being the turmoil war, the Cold War primarily involved political, economic, ideological competition rather than directly military conflict between two superpowers. That I also said to you. It's not a war happening on the ground where different where soldiers are piloting their what? Where soldier fighting with gunpowder or anything that not like that. It's a geopolitical conflict between two superpowers that help I think that help out humankind that help out humankind in terms of their growth on different basis that I want to say. Now let's move the next slide or this next page of this slide. Okay, as you can see there are almost about 20 questions for which we are going to discuss about them. We are going to discuss these 20 questions. We are going to discuss these 20 questions in in rest of the videos. Already 30 minutes has been passed in this video. About 47 minutes we are going to discuss this question only. Like, what is the first question? What were the main ideological difference between United States and Soviet Union during the Cold War? What are the main ideological difference? What are the Yatra Conference of 1945 contributed the tension of Cold War? What role does the Marshall Plan play in shaping the post-World War Second World War, World and Cold War? How the division of Germany, particularly the creation of the East and West Germany, contributed the Cold War tension? What are the some of the key event and outcome of the Korean War as a proxy conflict during the Cold War? Explain the concept of mutuality, hazard, destruction, and role of the armed race and of the Cold War. How did the Cuban Missile Crisis during the United States and Soviet Union bring to the brink of nuclear conflict? what is the what is the significance of Vietnam War in context of the Cold War and the US Soviet relation? How did the policy of determine influence the relationship between superpower cold during the Cold War? What was the role of the proxy war in the Cold War? Can you provide example and other other than Korea and Vietnam? Describe the event leading to contribution and fall of the Berlin Wall and its symbolism in the Cold War? How did the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan impact the course of Cold War and international relations? What are the strategic arm limitation treaties and how do they affect arm control during the Cold War? Discuss the concept of the third world and its significance in context of the Cold War geopolitics. How did the Helsinki Accords of 1975 influence relationship between the Eastern and Western blocs? What role did the space race play in the broader context of the Cold War rivalry? Explain the term of the Iron Curtain and its association with the division between Eastern and Western Europe during the Cold War. How did the policies of Glasnost and Perestroika introduce Mikhail Gorbachev contribute to the end of the Cold War? What are the main factors that lead to collapse of the Soviet Union and official end of the Cold War? So these are the questions we are going to discuss in this video. Okay, around 16 minutes has been passed in this video. We are going with quite pace. We have discussed about introduction. Like this is not an actual war where US soldier of two different country fighting on the ground. So either tank or aircraft, not that like that. It's a geopolitical political fight between two countries on a world level. Like there has been a space war in order to, like, there has been a race who can land their aircraft first on moon. It's like that, not like an actual war on ground, that which is happening quite it's quite good. It's quite happening in Ukraine between Russia. No, that's not like that. It's not like that. It's an actual geopolitical war between two superpowers between 1945 to 1991. To get it to 20 now, let's move to the first question. What was the main ideological difference between the United States and Soviet Union during the Cold War? During the Cold War, the United States and Soviet Union had a significant ideological difference that were at the core of their rivalry and conflict. The difference can be summarized as follows. Economic system. United States, the US embraced capitalism, a system that emphasizes private ownership, individual entrepreneurship, and free market competition. The Soviet Union adhered to communism, where the means of production were owned and controlled by the state, aiming to eliminate social classes and establish a classless society. Political structure. United States, US saved US championed campaigned campaigned democracy and multi-party political system with elected representative and protection of individual right of freedom. The Soviet Union was characterized by single party rule under Communist Party with centralized planning and control of the state. Individual liberties. United States. Individual right and personal freedom was highly valued, including freedom of speech, press, religion, and assembly. Soviet Union. The Soviet Union government placed greater emphasis on collective welfare and limited individual freedom for the sake of maintaining social cohesion. cohesion. Economic organization. United States. Market forces determine production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Soviet Union. Economic decisions were largely centralized planned by the government, with little room for market forces to influence resource allocation. Global influence. Global influence. United States, the US promoted a global order based on democratic principle and capitalist economics, often referred as a free world. Soviet Union. So Soviet Union sought to expand its influence through the spread of communism and supported socialist and communist movement around the world. Private property, United States, private ownership of the property was cornerstone of the capitalist system, allowing individual to accumulate wealth. Soviet Union, private property was generally discouraged and eliminated in favor of the state ownership and collective control. Ideological dominance. United States, the US believed the superiority of the democracy and capitalism, which it was as promoting individual initiative and economic prosperity. Soviet Union, the Soviet government considered communism to be more equitable and just system that would eventually lead to elimination of social inequality. That's the main ideological difference between the United States and Soviet Union. That led to be no, not this. These are the main. No, these are the not main reason that led to war, but these are the ideological difference between two superpowers. First is called the economic system. In US mostly the economy is open economy where you can where you can boost your economy on the basis of by opening widespread of opportunity to individual, where you give power to individual to do whatever they want to do. They have a full power to do, like through entrepreneurship, government support startup, and like feature help feature help on ground level to individual to grow, but also as an when that accumulate some as a country to grow, like it's at the system on a private ownership. Okay, you can buy or sell a land property anything. Private ownership means that you can do your own work without getting or notice by government or getting some restriction by government in terms of when you want to expand or do something or pivot in your startup. And all in Soviet Union, it used to be not a good idea, but in US it is. Individual entrepreneurship you can do and whatever you want to do in term of entrepreneurship. Free market competition. It's a free market competition. Excuse me. It's a free market competition. Like whoever can compete with anyone in terms of anything. You're not restricted to individual. You are not restricted to individual. You can compete with anyone. If an idea and you know how to scale it, then nobody is going to stop you. You can implement your ideas in terms of anything. Mm. You get it? What I want to say. To get it, what I want to say. Like, and the Soviet Union adhered to communism, where it means the production were owned and controlled by the state, aiming to eliminate social classes and establish a classless society. That is what I want to say. Soviet Union adhered to communism, where the means of production were owned and controlled by the state. Most of the function of a country is done by the state of government. They didn't give power to the people to their entrepreneurship or to do their things. Most of the thing has been done by the government in term of the structure of a government, how should it work and how it should run, and people follow their rules and regulation. mm. United also state also people follow the rules, but in terms of entrepreneurship, like you can't start your entrepreneur or business in Soviet Union, as it said through this article. I don't in realism, but it may be. That's why today's United States is a world largest economy in terms of GDP, where Soviet Union didn't exist at all. Political structure: United States, US campaign democracy and multi-party political system with elected representative and protection of the individual right and freedom. Hmm. The Soviet system was characterized by single party rule under the Communist Party and centralized planning and control by the state. As I already said, Soviet Union as an Prime Minister of Russia is control has the power to control President, not Prime Minister. President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, has the power to control its country, Russia, to until 2032. Mm, without even elected of new president, without being elected of new candidate of president. That has power. That has the power to rule the Soviet Union or Russia until Soviet Union is made up of different countries. Mm. So we say characterize a single party under the Communist Party, centralized planning and control by the state. Individual liberties, individual right and personal freedom are highly valued, including freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly. Soviet government placed greater emphasis on collective welfare, unlimited individual freedom of speech for maintaining social cohesion. Get it what I want to say? Yeah. Economic organization. United States market focus determined production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Market forces determined production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Soviet Union economic decisions were largely centralized, planned by government with less little room for market forces to influence resource allocation. Global influence. United States, the US promoted a global order based on the democratic principle and capitalist economics, often referred as a free world. The Soviet Union sought to expand its influence through the spread of communism and support socialist and communist movement around the world. Private property. United States private ownership of the property has been a cornerstone of the capitalist system, allowing individuals to accumulate wealth. Private property was generally discouraged and eliminated in favor of the state ownership and collective control. Ideological dominance. United States. The US believed in the superiority of democracy and capitalism, which it was so as a promoting individual initiative and economic prosperity. Soviet Union government considered communism to be more equitable and just system that would eventually lead to elimination of social inequality. Okay, how did the Yatra Conference of 1945 to contribute tension of the Cold War? The Yatra Conference had in 1945 Cold War second was a meeting between leader of Allied power Winston Churchill of Great Britain, Franklin D. Roosevelt of the United States, and Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union. The conference took place in the Crimean city of Yatra, aimed to be discussed the post-war reorganization of Europe and the world. While the Yatra conference was intended to foster cooperation among the allies, it sowed the seed of the tension that would contribute onset of the Cold War. Here's how: division of Germany and Eastern Europe. At Yalta, not Yatra, Yalta, at allies agreed that Germany would be divided into four zones of occupation controlled by United States, Great Britain, Soviet Union, and France. Similarly, Eastern Europe nation liberated with Nazi control were to have a free election to choose their government. However, the Bog working on differing interpretation of these agreement become a source of contention later. The Soviet Union established pre-communist government in Eastern Europe, which the Western allies views and violating the spirit of Yalta Agreement. Poland fate. The issue of Poland's future government was particularly continuous. The Western allies supported a government that included members of pre-war Polish government and was open political pluralism. However, the Soviet Union instead Instead, on a more communist dominating government, the Yalta Agreement led to compromise that satisfied neither side. Poland ended up under a Soviet influence and communist control. Declaration on Liberated Europe. The Yalta Conference produced a Declaration on Liberated Europe, which stated that all nations liberated from Nazi occupation would be able to create a democratic institution of their code. However, this commitment was vague and could be interpreted differently by each side. The Soviet would use its ambiguity to legitimize its influence in Eastern Europe. Get it what I want to say. Already 13 minutes has been passed. Half of the time has been completed in this video. Half has to be finished. Keep moving with the day progress today. Today, bro. Today. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares, bro? Who cares? Today, today, today. It's in a Khabib court. Who cares, bro? Who cares? Who cares, bro? Care. Today. Okay. Let's move to the fourth point. Repression and economic disagreement. After the Allies discussed the issue of repartition, repartition of the Germany should pay. Soviet Union having suffered significant losses during the war sought substantial repartition. The Western Allies were concerned that these repartition would weaken post-war Germany and hinder economic recovery. This economical disagreement highlighted differing priorities and interest of the Allies. Trust issue. The Yalta Conference revealed underlying trust issue between the Western Allies and Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had initially been excluded from Manhattan Project, the development of the atomic bomb, and Stalin felt that the Western Allies has kept important military development secret from him. This contributed an atmosphere of suspension and unease. The Yalta Conference marked the beginning of the shift from wartime cooperation to Cold War rivalry. Their differing interpretation of the agreement made Yalta confined with implementation of the policies of Eastern Europe and Germany contributed the ideological, political, and strategic division that identified as a post-war period progressed. The tension that emerged from Yalta led to a groundwork of ideological and geopolitical confrontation of the Cold War. How did the Marshall play in a shaping of the post-World War, Second World, and the Cold War? We're going to discuss Australia. ये देश है वीर जवानों का, अलवेलों का, मुस्कानों का, इस देश के यारो आए, इस देश के यारो यहाँ दौड़ी छाती, इस देश के यारो क्या कहना. The Marshall Plan, officially known as the European Recovery Program, a significant initiative launched by the United States in 1941 to provide economic aid and assistance to war-torn Western Europe countries after World War II. The plan played a crucial role in shaping the post-war world and had a significant implication of the unfolding Cold War between the United States and Soviet Union. Here, the Marshall Plan influenced this dynamic economic recovery and reconstruction. The primary objective of the Marshall Plan was to aid in economic recovery and reconstruction of the Western Europe nation devastated from the war. The plan provided financial assistance, technical expertise, and resources to help these countries rebuild their economics, modernize infrastructure, and restore individual production. Preventing communism. On the key movement behind the Marshall Plan was to prevent the spread of communism in the Western Europe. The United States believed that the economic instability and poverty could create a fertile ground of the communist movement to be gain popularity. By fostering economic recovery and prosperity, the United States aimed to provide an alternative to the appeal of the communism. Containment strategy. Marshall Plan was consistent with what U.S. policy of containment, which aimed to prevent the expansion of the Soviet influence and communism beyond the Eastern Bloc by adding Western European countries. The U.S. hoped to contain Soviet expansion and prevent the establishment of the communist government in these nations. Division of Europe. The Marshall Plan contributed to the division of Europe into two distinct spheres of influence in the Western Bloc, led by the United States, the Eastern Bloc, led by the Soviet Union. Countries that accepted Marshall Plan allied themselves more closely with Western allies capitalist system, reinforcing the ideological divide between two superpowers. Soviet response. The Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc allies viewed Marshall Plan as an attempt to create an anti-communist alliance in the Europe. In response, the Soviets established a Molotov Plan, also known as the Comecon, which aimed to promote economic cooperation among Eastern Bloc countries. The Marshall Plan anticipates suspicious between the superpower impact on the U.S.-Soviet relation. The Marshall Plan exacerbated tension between the United States and Soviet Union. The Soviet Union saw the plan as an economic weapon and accused U.S. for extend its influence. This deepened the mistrust between the two powers and contributed to the growing Cold War rivalry, integration and unity. The economic aid provided by Marshall helped promote integration among the Western Europe countries. This helped to encourage joint economic venture and cooperation, laying the foundation of organizations like European Coal and Steel Community, a procure of the European Union. How does the division of Germany, particularly the question of East and West Germany, contribute to the Cold War tension? The division of Germany in the East and West Germany has a direct result to tension between the United States and the Soviet Union during the World War II. The division significantly contributed to the escalation of the Cold War tension in several ways. Iron Curtain symbolism. The division of Germany came to symbolize the border division of Europe into two ideological blocks. Winston Churchill, famous Iron Curtain speech in 1946, referred to the physical and ideological separation between the capitalist West and communist East. The Germany's division serving as a prime example. Economic competition. The economic difference between the East and West Germany was West Germany promoted the Marshall Plan and adopted a capitalist economic system, experienced rapid reconstruction and economic growth. East Germany, under Soviet control, faced economic challenges due to the centrally planned economy, limited access to the Western assistance. Berlin blockade air and airlift. In 1948, the Soviet Union blockaded West Berlin, which located deep with East Germany. The Western Allies responded with the Berlin airlift supplying the city to essential goods of air. This crisis underscored the division between the two parts of the city, highlighted determination of the West to maintain its presence. Berlin Wall construction. In 1961, Eastern Germany, the Soviet support, erected the Berlin Wall to prevent East Germany from fleeing to West Germany. The construction of the wall made the division of more tangible and further symbolized the Cold War division of the Europe. Brain drain and ideological competition. East Germany experienced a significant brain drain as a skilled worker and professional migrated to more prosperous West, seeking better opportunities and freedom. Now, this not only weakened and Eastern Germany economy become what served as a powerful treatment to appeal Western way of life. Not one Warsaw Pact. I'm just reading out article now, not explaining to you from my point of view. About 40 minutes has been passed in this video. About 40 minutes has to pass in this video. Let's continue with it also. NATO and Warsaw Pact, the division of NATO. Proxy conflict. The division of Germany and a major factor of the proxy conflict in Cold War. President for the Berlin crisis in 1961 and the constant treatment of confrontation over the divided city added the overall tension between the United States and Soviet Union. Ideological rivalry. Division of Germany became a microcosm of the broader ideological rivalry between capitalist and communism. The contrasting political and economic system in the East and West is Germany sourced and competing metal that as a superpower were promoting globally. Okay. What are some of the event and outcome of the Korean War as a proxy conflict between the conflict during the Cold War? The Korean War, which lasted in 1950 to 1953, was a significant proxy conflict during the Cold War between the United States and Russia, supporting South Korea and Soviet Union and China supporting North Korea. It had far-reaching consequences for global balance of the power and Cold War dynamics. Had some key event and outcome of the Korean War as a proxy conflict. Key event: North Korea invasion. June 25, 1950, North Korea forces under the leadership of Kim II and the world Soviet backing launched a surprise invasion of South Korea. This marked the beginning of South Korean War. UN intervention. The United States Security Council passed a resolution condemning North Korea aggression and called its military intervention to repel to the invasion. The UN force predominantly composed of the US troops, but the contribution from the other country will dispatched to support South Korea. Chinese intervention as the UN forces advanced toward the Yellow River, the border with China. Chinese forces intervened in support of the North Korea, leading to dramatic escalation of the conflict. Stalemate in armistice talks, end of the fighting and armistice. Mm. Key outcome: division of the Korea. The war solidified the division of Korea along the 30th parallel, become the communist state by Soviet and Chinese influence. While the South Korea allied with the United States and western part. Demilitarized zone. Demilitarized zone was established along the border between North Korea and South Korea as a part of the armistice agreement. It heavily fortified the remain one of the most tense and heavily armed border in the world. Fortified remain human toll. The Korean Wars resulted in significant loss of the war and widespread destruction. Estimate of the casualties vary, but we believe that several million people were killed, wounded, and went missing. Proxy conflict dynamics. The Korean highlighted the Cold War proxy conflict nature. The United States and Soviet Union supporting opposing side and using conflict to advance their ideological and strategic interest. Containment strategy. The war was seen by the US as a part of the strategy of containing spread of communism. The US commitment to defending South Korea was reinforced the idea that West would resist communist expansion. Impact on China and the USSR. Chinese intervention demonstrated China's willingness to defend its communist allies and established some major role of international state. The Soviet Union relatively limited involvement highlighted its desire to avoid a direct confrontation with the US. The Korean War left a lasting impact on the region, shaping the geopolitical landscape of East Asia, contributing to the ongoing tension between North and South Korea. It also underscored the danger of proxy conflict in the context of the larger Cold War struggle between the superpower. Explain the concept of mutually assert destruction its role in arms race of the Cold War. Military strategy emerged during the Cold War, particularly in the context of the arms race between the United States and Soviet Union. It refers to the situation in which the both sides the possess enough nuclear weapon to impact catastrophic damage in each other in the event of the nuclear war. The core idea of the movement is that very prospect of the massive retaliation and other destruction of both sides act as a deterrent, making the use of nuclear weapon unlikely. Key aspect of the MED concept as a role Cold War arms rare include Deterrence theory. The man has a based on the principle of deterrence. Belief is that both sides possess sufficient number of nuclear weapons capable of causing devastating destruction. Neither side would risk launching nuclear attack become a response would lead to on any hesitation. Second, strike capability. Armed race escalation. Armed race escalation. Nuclear parity. Stability through fear. Crisis management. Strategic arm and limitation. Our 45 minute has been complete in this video. Only 15 minute has been left. Whoa. Hmm. Stability through fear, crisis management, strategic arm, limitation talk. Overall, the concept of mutuality. Let's read about some interesting topic. How the Cuban Missile Crisis bring the United States and Soviet Union to bring the nuclear conflict. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1960 was a critical event that brought the United States and Soviet Union to bring common nuclear conflict. It was a tense 13-day confrontation that emerged to be discovery of Soviet ballistic missile in Cuba. Discovery of the Soviet ballistic missile in Cuba. Yeah. The crisis is often considered as the closest world has come to a full-scale nuclear war. During the Cold War, the crisis is often considered the closest the world has come to the full-scale nuclear war during the Cold War. There are some crises unfolding how it escalated tension between two superpower. Background: Cuban Revolution and Alliance in 1955. Fidel Castro communist government came in power in Cuba. This raised concern in the United States. Fidel Castro communist government came in power in Cuba. This raised concern in the United States. Cuba's proximity made it a potential base for Soviet influence in Western Hemisphere. Soviet-Cuban relation. The Soviet Union saw opportunity to establish a foothold in Americas and counterbalance US power by providing economic and military assistance to Cuba. Crisis escalation. Discovery of missile in 1962. US reconnaissance flight detected Soviet ballistic missile in Cuba. This missile has a capability to carry nuclear warhead and reach major US cities within minutes, significantly altering and strategic violence between the superpower. US response. President John V. Kennedy publicly revealed that the presence of the missile in televised address on October 2 Kennedy. October 2, 19, he announced that the naval blockade was a term as a quarantine around which he termed a quarantine around Cuba to prevent further Soviet shipment of military equipment. Tense diplomacy. Over the next 13 days, intense negotiation and diplomatic maneuvering took place between the US and Soviet Union. Both sides to throw back channel message to avoid open conflict. Brinkmanship and tension. The situation was extremely tense, with both superpowers making public statements that indicated their willingness to defend their interest. The world watches as the nuclear armed nation appeared to be on the brink of the war. What the significance of Vietnam War in the context of the Cold War and the US-Soviet relation? The Vietnam War has significant importance in the context of the Cold War and Soviet Union relation. It is one of the prominent proxy conflict of the Cold War era and had far-reaching implementation of the both global balance and power relationship between the United States and Soviet Union. Here, the significance of the Vietnam War in the context proxy conflict ideological divide. The Vietnam War highlighted the ideological divide between the United States and Soviet Union. North Vietnam supported the Soviet Union and China pursued communist ideals, while South Vietnam, backed by the US allied and Western capitalist principles, the conflict became the battleground for the superpower competing ideologies. Strategic importance. Vietnam location in Southeast Asia made it strategically important in context of the Cold War. Both the US and Soviet Union aimed to extend their influence in the region to gain access to resource, trade routes, and geopolitical advantage. US Soviet rivalry. Vietnam identified the rivalry between the East and Soviet Union. The competition used to conflict to challenge each other, influence, and demonstrate the effectiveness of their respective ideologies, arms race, and military aid. The war contributed to escalation in the arms race as both the US and Soviet Union provided military assistance to their respective allies. The conflict saw as an increase in deployment of the weaponry and technology as a superpower sought to gain the unprovoked crisis management. The potential of the Vietnam War escalated into direct military confrontation between the US and Soviet Union poses a significant challenge of crisis management. A superpower of had carefully navigate the conflict to avoid the all-out one war between nuclear armed nation. Domestic impact, public opinion and dissent. The Vietnam War led to significant public opposition and anti-war movement of the US and other Western countries. The divergence on the public sentiment highlighted in the complexity of the fighting proxy conflict and influenced US policy decisions. Soviet propaganda. The Soviet Union used the Vietnam War as a tool for anti-American propaganda, portraying the US as an imperialist aggressor and campaigning as the struggle of nationalist movement against the Western intervention. Describe the event leading to construction of and fall of the Berlin Wall and symbolize the Cold War. Growing tension by the 1950s, the division between East and West Germany had identified. East Germany under Soviet control and experiencing a significant loss of the citizen. More prosperous West. The migration included skilled worker, professionals, and intellectual, causing economic and political challenges for the East German government, especially to the West. As a flow of people continued, the East German government, with Soviet approval, decided to take drastic measures. Drastic measures. Mm. Okay. On August 12, 1996, that they began building Berlin Wall, initially consisting of a iron barricade to prevent East Germany from filling the West Berlin. Wall construction over the time wall was fortified with concrete segment, watchtower, and heavily patrolled that stripped the wall encircle West, cutting off its access to East Germany and surrounding areas. Symbolism and significance fall of the Berlin Wall. Hmm. How did the Soviet invention? Yeah, I want to read about this. How did the Soviet Union invention of Afghanistan impact the course of the Cold War and international relations? The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, which occurred in December 1979 and later until 1999, had profound and far-reaching impact of the course of the Cold War and international relations. Here are the some of the key consequences and effect of the event. Escalation of War tension. The invention escalated tension between the United States and Soviet Union. The US condemned the invasion and provided military financial support to Afghan resistance group known as the Mujahideen. Conflict identified and proxy of war dynamics and Cold War. The US and allied backwards. US support Mujahideen. US and its allies supplied weapons, training, and funding to Afghan resistance. The mark of the most significant instances of involvement in proxy war during the Cold War. The Mujahideen fight against the Soviet-backed Afghan government was seen as a resistance against communist expansion. Soviet military strain. The war was placed in a heavily burden of the Soviet military, both in terms of the personnel and resources. The conflict became a quagmire of the Soviet Union, leading to casualties and economic strain. It further weakened the Soviet economy and contributed the internal discontent. Growth and growth of Islamic militancy. The Afghan conflict attracted fighters from various countries, including Arab volunteers, who would later play a significant role in global jihadist movement. The war helped foster the growth of the Islamic militancy, which would have implications beyond the Cold War era. strained US Soviet relation. The Afghan invasion strained US Soviet relation even further, contributing the deterioration of diplomatic tie. It solidified the perception of Soviet Union and aggressive expansionist power and fueled anti-Soviet sentiment. Boycott of the 1980 election. In response to the invasion, US led to boycott of 1980 and held in Moscow. Further demonstrated the extent of global condemnation of the Soviet action. Stinger missile and Soviet withdrawal. The introduction of the portable anti-aircraft Stinger missile by US and allies to Afghan resistance significantly impacted the war. Improvability of the counter-Soviet aircraft contributed to the Soviet decision to withdraw from Afghanistan in 1989. End of the T-20. The Afghan invasion effectively marked the end of the T-20, a period of relaxation. US-Soviet tension during the renewed conflict heightened suspension military build-up on both sides. Impact of the war was perestroika. The war was factor of shaping of the approach of Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. The heavily troll and unpopularity of the conflict influenced Soviet Union. Afghanistan was contributed to Soviet Union decline. The war costed other factor weakened the Soviet economy and military. The war highlighted the limitation of Soviet power and exposed internal problems. The role of the space role in the border construct of the Cold War rivalry. Over 56 minutes has been passed in the It's 5:43 a.m. in the morning. Why doesn't it score? Why doesn't it just score full screen? I'm just reading out the article, but I got to know many things today about the international relation. What role did the space race play in a quarter construct of the Cold War rivalry? The race plays a multifaceted, significant border construct of the Cold War rivalry between the United States and Soviet Union. It was more than a competition to achieve technological milestone. It served as a symbolic and strategic battleground for the showcasing ideological, scientific, and military superiority. How the space race influenced the Cold War, symbol of ideological superiority, propaganda, and prestige. The space war provided a platform for superpower to showcase their achievement in the world. Success in space war seemed indicative of the nation economic, technological, political powers. Both of the US and Soviet Union used their space accomplishment for domestic and international propaganda, demonstrating system effectiveness. The space race served as an indirect comparison between the capitalist system of US and communist system of Soviet Union. Success in space were evidence of the superiority of their respective political ideologies, technological innovation, military significance, advanced interlocutory, spin of technologies, dual-use technologies, early warning system. What are the main factors that lead to collapse of the Soviet Union and official end of the Cold War in 1991? Oh, I think this is the last slide of this. Last slide of this whole documentary part. I don't know, about 59 has been to be completed in this video, so it's the last good time to be. The collapse of the Soviet Union and its official end of the Cold War in 1991 was the result of complex interplay of the factor that had been building over the decade. This factor included political, economic, social ideologies, timing that converged the bring about significant change in international landscape. Here are some of the main factors that contributed to the collapse of the Soviet Union and of the economic strain. The Soviet economy faced significant challenges, including inefficiency, stagnation, heavy focus on military spending. Political reform. Under the leadership of Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet Union attempted to introduce political and economic reform through like reconstructing and lasting openness. This reformation aimed to increase transparency, increase innovation, and modernize the economy. Also led to unintended consequences, including increased political openness and demand for greater political freedom. Nationalism and ethnic tension. The Soviet Union was composed for various ethnic group and republics with distinct culture identified nationalism and demand for autonomy grow stronger, particularly in the regions such as Vettel, Baltic state, Ukraine, and Caucasus. The tension strained the unity of Swiss with Finland and demand for greater self-determination. Eastern Bloc and revolt. The political changes in Soviet Union inspired a similar movement in Eastern Europe countries under Soviet influence. The fall of Berlin Wall 1999 marked the turning point. Several Eastern European countries experienced peaceful revolution and transited away from communism. Economic liberation. Gauro's time to liberalize the economy led to unintended consequences including increased inflation, reduced productivity and decline in living standard. These economic challenges further address breakup of the Warsaw Pact, non-violent protest, failed coup attempt, collapse of the central authority. I think 1 hour has completed in this video. That's it for the video. We'll see you next time. Till then, see you again. That's it. That's it for the video. We'll see you next time. That's it for the video. We'll see you next time. Oh, bro. Just be careful.